record here. You should get the countdown there. I'll record here, and we're off and running. Wow. This, I must say, in terms of when I started this podcast and when I asked people who they wanted on, your name came up many, many times. It was up towards the top, right?
Oh.
So, Jimmy, welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the fun. How are you? How you doing?
I'm great, man. I really, I'm humbled that you got me on here. It's really cool. I appreciate that a lot. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Fantastic. I'm really pumped to, I've gotten so many questions from viewers and listeners about you, about your training, about just kind of who the person is that can handle the amount of weight that you can handle. So for those who don't know, let's go over some of your numbers: equipped, raw, single ply, whatever. I just want to hear the whole gamut.
So, I don't compete raw. I lift raw sometimes when I feel the need, which is not very often. But so on the raw side, I don't max out very often. I've gone over 600. And I bench reverse grip.
That's another thing. That's another question that we've had as well.
Yeah. So everything that I'm about to tell you raw is all reverse grip. That's all I do. I've done 600 plus for a single, 500 for 9 or 10. I can't remember exactly. I don't care that much about raw. 405 for 20, 315 for 40, 225 for like 73 or 75 reps. That's all training. That's all stupid. I don't, whatever.
Right.
Single ply, we're getting into the equipped side, which is what I do and what I am. I benched 1,120 pounds single ply last June of 2021, at the time being the heaviest bench ever done, and I did it in single ply equipment. Then I got into the newer type of equipment and ended up benching. I was the first human to bench 1,200 and 1,300 in February of this year, topping out at 1,320. I've got 4 competitive benches over 1,200, 1 over 13. Collectively, I've benched 1,000 pounds or more in competition 11 different times.
That just fucking blows my mind. Like it as someone that, like I mentioned prior to recording, it's like, this is my first year. It'll actually be 1 year in November. And one of the biggest things that is something that you just can't describe unless you have thrown yourself into it is the pressure, right? How it feels to have X hundreds, in your case, over 1,000 pounds in your hands. What sort of, like, how would you even describe that?
It sounds so stupid when you say it, but it feels the same to me as it did when I was topping out at 300 when I was like 15. The first time I benched 4, or the first time I even just held these numbers in my hands, 300, 350, 400, though, that felt like a Mack truck was sitting in my hands, because that's what I was adapted to. That's what my CNS and body combined were adapted to. And the weights have kind of felt the same all the way going up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,000, 13 plus, 14 plus, and training now. Now getting up to the current numbers of 1450, the shearing force is definitely something you have to consider that's different. But overall, adaptation over time, everything kind of just feels similar.
Yeah, and I mean, to say that you're breaking new grounds is kind of an understatement, because you're literally holding in your hands more than multiple people squat. You know what I mean? So it's, now you're dealing with, now it's almost like we're treating this situation as like a science experiment. Like, you're really breaking ground in terms of how much weight the human body can handle, the style of training, how you respond to things. Because as a 400-pound bencher probably won't have a lot of the same sort of training styles. They'll have like a lot of what you do may be similar, but how you introduce it for you will be very different than the majority of people listening, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that's first off, before we even continue, reverse bench. Have you always reverse grip bench?
No, I haven't. I benched like everybody else does. pronated. Everybody benches like this. It's so popular
Yeah.
for some reason. A friend, I've always wanted to bench reverse,
Hmm.
but my anatomy just doesn't like that. I cannot grab a barbell in a supinated position anymore.
Hmm.
Whether it's for a curl, wrist curl, pull downs, I cannot supinate with a fixed barbell. So it always hurts. It hurts right here. It's shearing. It's awful. And then a friend of mine about 2.5 years ago, give or take, let me on to the idea that he's seen people that hold the bar between these two fingers right here. I'm
Hmm.
making a peace sign to hold the bar between these two fingers. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And I tried it, instantly hooked. So I've only been doing it for about 2.5 years, but I think Chad Ikes had said it a really, really interesting way. He said, just because everybody does something one way does not mean
Hmm.
there's not a better way. And particularly the style that I use, which is holding the bar between the trigger and middle fingers. Um, some people call it the claw grip, the talon grip, the fork grip. I just call it the reverse grip. That's what it is.
Hmm.
Modified version of it, whatever. But it keeps your body in absolutely perfect alignment. You're not pronated. You're not supinated. You're right naturally. We walk with our palms facing our body.
Hmm.
That's natural joint alignment. That's what you have when you use that style of grip. So that's probably one of the top 2 or 3 things in my recent couple of years that's made me take these strides that I have, is switching to reverse grip full time.
Yeah, and it's funny. The I have a training partner that only trains reverse grip on bench, and he's just been doing it for years, and that's just what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty strong bencher, but like it's funny. It's one of those things where if you once you start seeing it, you can't unsee it. It's almost like more and more people start to kind of pick that up a little bit.
Well, yeah, everybody that tries it, they talk about it. I go to these seminars, and I actually have everybody in the audience that wants to willingly
Hmm.
come up to the bench and try it, and they all love it. All my training partners use it, close friends of mine use it, fellow athletes and benchers use it. It's really, I think, a superior way, and especially anatomically speaking, to do the bench press. And I'm talking all raw.
Hmm.
There's limitations with it because now the barbell is not sitting horizontally in the palm; it's sitting vertically. So
Hmm.
all that weight is right on that bone, and it's very, very painful. I just hit a PR reverse grip bench last night, and what's going to prevent me from going even heavier is just the pain of all the weight being right on that bone. So there are limitations to it on the extreme end. Like I'll never
Hmm.
compete that way because I can't put 1,400 pounds in my palm that way. It's not going to happen. But
Right.
it is awesome though. It's what it really has changed my life for the better.
Absolutely, and it's funny you brought up a good point there with the extreme example of that of the actual structure of your body being a limitation to
Mm-hmm.
the way that you can use, because now like you're getting into the point where you're using one of Rob's shirts, which are fucking awesome, love
Mm-hmm.
those, and it's now getting to the point where you're really talking about okay, you need to make sure your structure, your bones are healthy. You got to make sure that you're just thinking about a whole different level. It's not like
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to get a tear or I'm going to get like a strain. It's like
Yeah.
no, shit's going to pop off if
Yeah.
something goes wrong.
If yeah, no, I've been lifting weights for 18 years, competing for 14 as of this past May. That marked 18 and 14. And I have
Hmm.
slowly crawled and scratched my way over 14 years competitively to get to where I'm at. Now, my first shirted bench ever was in a Karen Klein double denim. That was my first bench shirt ever. It was 550 when I
Hmm.
was 18 years old. So it's been a long process. But when you do things slowly over time like that, you have the benefit that you are building that bone density that's necessary to do these kind of lifts. If somebody of maybe a lower end caliper wanted to handle something close to that, I would strongly advise don't, because you will snap the arms in your forearms minimum.
Mm.
It's something you do have to consider, and it's something I do think about. That's why when I handled the heaviest load I've ever handled a few weeks ago, I haven't had to convince myself to do something mentally in a really long time. But when I
Hmm.
saw the bar sitting in the rack, someone walked by the bar, like nudged it with their hip, and the bar just started noodling while sitting in the rack. And I was like, I'm going to crawl
Oh boy.
underneath that. So it is something I actually got an X-ray a couple weeks ago just to be sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have a chiropractic friend that does work on me. He took an X-ray just to ease my conscience. There's nothing wrong. I had some pain. I'm like, ooh, what if, that 1% chance, but all clear. So we got the green light.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean that would even when I started. I mean, obviously the first time I competed was in an SVP, but then I competed in one of Rob's band shirts, and like even training at that higher weight level is like you're right. Is like it's less about your muscles being sore and fatigued, and be like it just feels like you got hit by a bus. I was talking to Amber about that a few weeks ago, and she was talking about how with her training when she's competing raw, it's a different type of fatigue than when you're in gear. It's like your whole system is just on red alert. It's like, what the fuck just happened to me? And where did that bus that hit me go? Like that was, it always just feels so, it's just a different sensation.
Yeah, no, I feel like trash after
Mm,
Saturdays are my heavy days. I feel I'm on the floor for 5 to 10 minutes after some of these sets I do. It's really insane. But that's why I always I always put my full body into the bench. When I did full power from time to time, my deadlift always sucked so bad
mm-hmm.
because my entire body, from traps all the way down past into my legs, were just completely sore and worn out from benching.
Yeah.
Especially in the gear, but also I'm a full body lifter when it comes to the bench, so it's not it's kind of a combination of both of those things. But yeah, I enjoy it though, man. It's fucking awesome though.
Yeah, and I got to see a bench a little bit at Rob's meet there, that strength spectacular. And it was just there is just this different level of energy. You're looking at the bar and you're like, you're gonna fucking bench that? I'm like, I was like, there are few people in this room that could squat
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I think it's one of those things too. In for those who have never seen it, it really is just like a different animal. It just doesn't even make sense. Like you're looking at this bar loaded. And like you had said, I haven't seen that bar loaded with 1,400 pounds before, but anything I've ever loaded on it, that bar doesn't even wiggle. It doesn't bend. It doesn't warp. It doesn't do anything. But now you're talking 1,400 plus pounds. And again, you're just playing with different rules at that point.
it is. It's become. It is. It's getting to the point. I mean, 14. I'm trying to bench 1,400 competitively this year. That's my goal. Before the
Mm-hmm.
year is out, I want to at least attempt it, and obviously, I'm trying to get it at the same time. But
Sure.
that's not the end all. I
Mm-hmm.
have plans to I now that I've been handling 1450, I now know for a fact whether I do it or somebody else, but like a 1,500 pound equipped bench is possible. That's kind of the ultimate goal. Now, if you're talking like, well, if you do 15, why don't you do 16? I don't want to talk about that yet. We're not there, but
Right. Right.
yeah, I don't. I was not raised to believe in limits.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have to be realistic, but at the same time, I do think anything is possible with enough time and persistence and adaptation.
Mm. One of the questions that we got uh, about you coming on is just how long is your training session on your heaviest day? Because I'm just thinking of how long it would take to load 1,400 pounds on a bar. And
Uh,
it would, I can't imagine how long your warm ups take. Like you must start at, I don't even know how you would do this. I just want to know all the information about that because that one blew my mind.
oh yeah, no. So we're going on Saturday mornings. We start at 9 o'clock, um, and I have to go in early. It used to be 10. But we have to go in a little bit earlier just for varying circumstances. So 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm looking at we go in at 9. I'm usually done working out by like two in the afternoon. It's a it's a long day. It's
That
four
is
to
a
five
long day.
hours sometimes. But that's including the accessory work, the helping others with their
Sure.
benches, and there's multiple people doing this. We have to unload
Mm-hmm.
my weight, go down, load my weight back on. I start with the empty bar. I always have. I've always done that. Even before that, I've been talking a lot with Donnie Thompson the past couple of years, and he was actually at President one of my seminars down in North Carolina. I do
Mm-hmm.
his shoulder protocol with the band across the front deltoid and doing all the rotations and things to prepare the body for the abuse you're about to put it through. He's just a fountain of knowledge and wealth of knowledge he is. So I do the shoulder protocol first, empty bar. I just make century jumps, plate jumps, just 1 red, 2 red, 3 red, 4. By 5 reds, I'm putting a piece on, some sort of protective piece. I put my shirt on with around between 700 and 800 pounds just for little quarter reps, just to kind of get like in the bench pressing in a shirt mode, just little quarter reps.
Right. Right.
I used to go to 1,000 after that. I just started skipping that and going straight to like 1050, 1075, which is like 9 or 10 reds. I'll usually hit like a 1,200 for like a one board or something as my last warm up working set, whatever you want to call it. That sounds dumb to call it a warm up. It's 1,200 pounds, but
yeah.
And then I will conduct the actual working loads, which is anything above 12. Normally 1,250, 1,300, 1,350, 1,400 pounds. But the whole day can take anywhere from 4 to 5 hours combined.
Yeah, and then your crew that you train with. I mean, they train. Like it's. I understand now after having competed and equipped and just kind of trained at elite and whatnot. Just I understand the kind of the ebb and flow of things. How things just take time. It just takes. You need to rest a certain amount. You need to make sure you're ready to go. The gear has to be locked in. And luckily enough, like with Rob's band shirts, they're so easy to kind of manipulate and jump into. Like it's night and day compared to like a poly, right? But
yes,
but still, I mean, shit takes time, and it's so cool to see that you not only can be able to put the time in to do that, but also have people around you to help you and support you. Because even when there's 500 pounds on the bar, granted for you, it's obviously a much lesser weight, but shit can go bad. Like you always want to have people around. You always want to have people spotting, So it's really cool to see that you have that crew around you to kind of help support. And likewise, you help and support them because, I mean, everybody wants a bigger bench. Everybody. I don't give a shit what people say. It's like, oh, I want to squat, whatever. It's like, yeah, it'd be really fucking cool if you could bench more too. Like, don't just throw the bench out. So I think that's one of the biggest things I want people to kind of know about you is like you've transitioned to bench only. So what does your training look like specifically in terms of getting ready for a meet, just building up that bench over the course of the week, right?
Yeah. So the larger picture is I used to train a certain way for the last 2 or 3 years. I was just lifting heavy all the time. Every Saturday was all the equipment, heaviest weight as possible, just boom, boom, boom every Saturday. I don't cycle. I don't periodize. I don't peak. I just lift heavy all the time. So I'm always kind of in meet prep mode because I'm always handling the heavy weights. I did abandon that after that Erie meet because it didn't go. I was like 200 pounds shy of what I wanted to bench, even though it was still kind of cool. So I abandoned all that previous training, and I have a brand new kind of proprietary rotation, but it's whatever, but that I'm doing right now. But anyway, the weekly structure, I up here always start my weeks on Saturdays. That's like day one of the week for me. And I build the rest of the week around that because that's the most important day, which is the shirted bench. Shirted bench on Saturday mornings. The next day is lower body, which I loathe, but I still do it. In my endless pursuit to gain more mass and muscle and weight, I gotta do lower body. Mondays I'm off. Tuesdays is an upper back day, which I really like Tuesdays. Wednesday is my not shirted bench day. Some people will call that raw. I don't. It's a not shirted day. Accessory bench. And then Thursdays is kind of a odds and ends day, like rear delts, shoulders, forearms, biceps, all the little muscles that I have neglected in the past. That's proven to be a bad thing. And then I'm off on Fridays. So I'm 5 days a week right now.
Awesome. Now, I think that's one of the misconceptions of a bench only competitor is that you're only benching, right? Because a lot of people there's a lot of people on the internet. It's like, oh, it's bench only. You just bench. It's like, no, you just heard it yourself. Is you have a lower body day in to gain more mass, to gain more just strength and size, because that transfers into the bench, leg drive, right? Like
it does.
Just weight, right? Just getting bigger and stronger. And that's such a cool thing to learn and to see, is that even if you're totally focused on the bench press, is like there are advantageous reasons to build up your legs, to get bigger, to get stronger and whatnot. So
Absolutely.
that's super cool to see. And also, so in terms of your accessory lifts, in terms of, I love going into the nerdy shit. This is when me and Amber were just like going off, like even after we stopped recording, it was just like, I love the nerdy shit. I love the details, because that's where, like, as a coach and as an athlete myself, is like learning how you transition from the main movement to your secondary or your accessory movements. A lot of people will be able to hear this and be able to take some good information out. In terms of your accessory movements, how do you kind of progress those? You just kind of keep a rotation of similar movements throughout.
So, I mean, yeah. So like I said, I have this new rotation that I'm doing right now. It's a 4-week cycle.
Yep.
Um, at the very beginning, I'm like, okay, on my Wednesday, my accessory bench day, I'm going to pick the same accessory movement, a secondary bench day. So
Mm-hmm.
this first 4 weeks, every Wednesday is going to be floor press. And I wear minimal equipment that first week, more equipment the second week, more the third, even more the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm rotating through my equipment on those days with the same movement, starting with sets of 5 and 6 on the first week with the lighter weight, less equipment, gear deficient. And as each week progresses, the weights get heavier, the gear gets more extreme, the reps come down.
Mm-hmm.
And then I top out. I keep it up here. I don't even need to write things down anymore. I can just know, like, that's a PR, that's a PR. This would be a PR if I get it, whatever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so each week, like I said, the weights get heavier, equipment gets more thick or more layers, and I just top out. The fourth week is always singles. So it progressively goes from fives to threes to twos to one.
Mm-hmm.
Once the rotation starts back over, I pick a different movement because law of accommodation, we all know what that is. I don't want to get too used to what I'm doing. So now, okay, so this cycle that I'm doing right now, actually my accessory lift for Wednesdays is reverse grip, um, equipped or assisted bench.
Mm-hmm.
And then after this 4 weeks, it could be cambered bar, two board work, or buffalo bar floor press, anything. But
Mm-hmm.
I used to rotate it more often. Like every single Wednesday was something else, something different every single week. Now I have an actual like structured plan that I can look at on paper, which I've almost never done my entire career. I've always just done what I want to do, what
Sure.
I feel like doing. Now I realize, well, I'm getting a little older, 32 now. It's getting up there, especially with this side of the sport anyway, with all these extreme weights.
Right.
I have to have a structured plan that I can write down and I can see and know. And so far, I'm starting to see those weekly PRs again. I'm having this cycle, this structured plan. So again, so at one point it was just rotate them every single week. Now it's actually once every 4 weeks. I'm rotating through those movements and
Mm.
keeping record of each one and keeping PRs on head.
Yeah, that's something that I found too. Is when I was training at Elite, is we'd have a tendency of finding that max effort movement, and like you said, every week rotating it out, and we would stay within the same sort of movements, so you get a rough idea. But I like what you do, is because you're sticking to a movement, making one variable changes,
Mm-hmm.
right? The level of equipment, so that you can make that progression. Because as you know, and I hope a lot of people listening to this, it's such a tremendous amount of geared lifting is your skill in the equipment as well, getting to lock that in. And the more reps that you get, and that's one of the things too that blows my mind, is the weights that you're using and in the time it takes to learn the skill of not only the weight and getting your body accustomed to that weight, but also the skill set necessary under that load to be successful, right?
Yep. Every time you're in a piece of equipment, every time you're doing something assisted, you are fine tuning. I'm still fine tuning what I'm doing after 18 years. Well, 14 years competitive equip lifting, but I'm always trying to get better. I'm always having to practice. I cannot just put this thing on and it's second nature. I mean, it kind of is, but like I can't just like go through the motions. I always have to think about what I'm doing, and I'm
Mm.
always practicing. um, on Wednesdays with my slingers or my inserts, whatever. Then on Saturdays with my shirts. I'm always in practice mode, always trying to move forward and improve.
Mm. Yeah, and that was one of my biggest takeaways of jumping into geared lifting is like you can't rush the practice. Like you can't skip the line. You can't just throw another piece of equipment on and all of a sudden you're better. Like that's not how that works, right?
Nope, nope, not at all.
And
Nope.
especially with these band shirts, and I think people get into trouble with it is that I've seen quite a bit of people throw these band shirts on and just get worse because it's like you don't realize you're not privy to the level of experience you need to kind of jump into one of these, understand how it works, and to be able to handle the weights in that shirt, right?
That's I oftentimes see people using weight that they're not strong enough to handle. You still have to be strong enough to handle these loads that these band shirts are
Mm.
allowing you to do. I always look at somebody's. I don't usually pry too hard, but I always try to look at somebody's poly numbers
Mm-hmm.
because I truly think poly is just worlds more difficult to do and master and be proficient with. If somebody's really strong in a poly, I'm like, well, you're going to do great in a band shirt too. Um, there is a technical aspect to all types of equipped lifting, but particularly poly and single ply poly is just worlds different and so much damn harder. Jeez, it's so hard. Oh boy,
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
go back.
Well, no, right. But like my when I was at Elite, my training partner Adam had a single ply katana he was benching in, and he was just, and I'm like, why? Like, get yourself something. Get yourself a multiply shirt. You're driving me fucking nuts. Like, but
I
he's had the
understand it
most
though. I get it.
his but so his skill set. He was like very efficient in it, and like he was used to it and whatnot. But it is it's having the conversation with somebody about benching in a shirt, whether it be band shirt or poly shirt, whatever. It's amazing to see when someone has that experience. Like I was talking to Amber about this. The first time I ever touched in a poly shirt, it was like I fucking won the lottery. It was like I touched and I completed a rep, and everybody around was like, "Yeah," like, because they know the level of effort and skill it takes to be able to do that effectively. And
Yes.
one of the coolest things about working in a band shirt for me was it carried over to strongman. Like any weight and strongman I was doing, I had none of that mental like, oh shit, this is heavy, because it's like having 600 pounds over your face, having 650 over your face. You're like, like there's nothing like that intimidation factor. Just like
Sure.
fucking isn't there.
Yep.
But even I just jumped back into a poly after training with a band shirt for a while, and the weights I'm touching in a poly, they don't. Again, it's like, oh, okay, like it doesn't have that like negative or sort of like fear factor to it.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no, and it's amazing to kind of to be able to have these conversations with someone like you that has such tremendous strength and experience in the geared world, because I think there is potential for real carryover, even if someone's a raw lifter, to throw a slingshot on every once in a while, to just feel the weight, to just
Yep.
kind of give their body that sort of sensation. Now, one of the questions I had for you, a very personal question for me, is at what point, and this is where I fuck up in my own training, at what point when you're warming up do you throw the slingshot on for those like intermediate weights, right? It's like not enough weight to touch in a shirt, but more than you could handle completely raw. Like where, like I know there's no hard fast numbers when it comes to that,
Oh
but
yeah.
that's where I start to fuck up mentally, where I'm like, when do I put the slinger on? What do I need to do? What sort of sensations for me would you say I'm looking for in those intermediate numbers?
I might be a bad person to ask because I've felt like absolute dog shit going into the gym. I'll throw a slinger on for one plate
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. Like so it's one plate on the bar. I got a slinger on doing quarter reps because I
Right.
just don't feel like going raw. I just feel beat up, or the week was trash, or I slept like hell the night before. Um, all things considered, on a very normal day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I was in my teens, when I was in my really early 20s, I had a rule that I would always hit like a decent 1 rep max raw before I got into any sort of equipment.
Hmm.
Almost like now I deserve, or now I've earned my right to get into my equipment or something. Then I
Sure.
realized that's dumb. I'm not a raw lifter, so I stopped doing that shit.
Yeah.
Um, so now it's just like I'm coming from an angle of I have absolutely zero care in the world about ever doing anything raw. I have absolutely no interest, as much as the internet
Hmm.
hates that. Uh, so I mean, I'll work. Generally speaking, I always work up to 1, 2, 3 plates, sometimes 4 or 5 raw.
Hmm.
If I'm really in the mood to do 5, I'll do it raw. If not, after anything after 4 plates, I'll throw a slinger on. Even if it's not enough weight to touch, I'll still do half reps, quarter reps. Sometimes that's it. And the very next set, I'm
Hmm.
in my shirt doing my quarter reps in the shirt before going up an additional 300 to 400 pounds to do my first like official like board touch, whether it's a one board. I don't do a lot of 2 boards anymore in the shirt. I think they're kind of worthless. I do 1 boards and half boards for almost everything I do.
Yeah.
But for warm up purposes, sometimes I'll touch a 2 that one time, and then it's 1 board, half board after that. So it really
Hmm.
just depends on how I'm feeling. Um, it could be a 4 or 5 plates slinger. It could be after the empty bar, everything's slinger.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
very
Right.
very dependent on the day.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear because that's kind of how it's been for us, and and it really does. It does depend, and so gear for those who don't compete in gear is a such a large variable that in and of itself can be difficult. How you seat the shirt, how it fits, uh, the bloat you have, your body weight, like all this shit has such a massive impact. And actually, at that meet you were at, I was super bloated for my bench shirt. So it was like crazy tight. And everything felt fucked up and my bench went to shit. And I only hit my opener, but my squat felt great and my pull felt great. So it's
Mhm.
this balancing act. And it was at the time I was like, oh, this is such a fucking rookie move. I'm like, of course. Like I didn't try this in my training. I didn't really track my body weight on my bench days.
Mhm.
Now, in terms of in your situation, I imagine you have a particular weight fluctuation or a range you want to be in when you're going for the heavier weights, right?
Oh yeah, I actually twice a week on my most important days, Wednesdays and Saturdays, not shirted and shirted bench.
Yep.
I walk in the gym, I set my stuff down, I go right to the one bathroom that we have that has the scale,
Mm-hmm.
weigh myself. I'm like, okay, I'm 332 right now. I
Mm-hmm.
see how my equipment behaves. Like, okay, cool. Next week I come in, I'm 329, 330. See how the equipment behaves. Okay, take note. So yeah, I track my weight to a T, like a hawk. I'm always watching what I weigh because the
Mm-hmm.
fluctuation of 2 to 3 pounds up or down can
Oh
completely
yeah.
drastically change, and it's especially important when you're in poly.
Mm-hmm.
The band shirts, because they are more malleable, they're designed to stretch more than a poly would, and so I can get away with a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
But polys, whoa! When I was doing my single ply numbers, I had to be really careful. And I remember the last poly meet I did was last November in York, Pennsylvania. I bombed out. I was benching single ply, and
Mm-hmm.
I decided to, like you just mentioned, I've tried this before, but again, I still make mistakes after 18 years of lifting weights. I bloated too much the night before. I went to the Texas Roadhouse. I had a ginormous rare steak, and I bloated, and I was so bloated. Again, this is single ply. I couldn't touch 1070, 1140, 1150 in a single ply katana. I could not touch. I was so bloated. When they got the weight out to me, I couldn't get air. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I was almost blacking out coming down because I could not get air. So
Mm-hmm.
I've made that mistake. I still make mistakes up to just going to Rob's 3 weeks ago. I forgot my belt. It's sad. It's just after all this time. But yeah, the weight fluctuation thing right now with band shirts, I have more wiggle room.
Mm-hmm.
But in polys, there was no wiggle room. It was, I have
Yeah.
to weigh this in order to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, and that's exactly. I mean, what happened to me? Except my fluctuation in that band shirt. The band shirt was it was acting the right way. I was just too heavy. I just bloated up way too much, and it, like you had said, it just I rode it too high, and it choked me out, and I just it was like lights out in the city. And when you're dealing with a weight that you're not going to be able to touch raw, it's like, okay, this thing is, you're just going to go for a ride. I was like, okay, we're just going to see how this fucking goes.
Uh-huh.
So kind of shifting gears here a little bit. Another one of the questions that we got was, a lot of people, like I mentioned before, want to build a bigger bench, right? What are some of your big tenets, like the big rocks that people need to work on, or that you've seen people? Because I'm sure you get a ton of questions about building a bench, about getting stronger. What are the biggest rocks or the takeaways that people can kind of take from this episode to really start implementing successful bench training so that their bench actually starts going up again?
Establish and figure out exactly what it is you want to do. Do you
Mm-hmm.
want to be a raw lifter? Do you want to be equipped? Do you want to be raw, like Amber? She does both. Or yeah,
Sure.
you want to do both or one or the other. Establish what you want to do and train accordingly. Um, Me being absolutely 1,000% just equipped only, I know exactly what I need to do because I've been practicing it for like 14 years. If I was
Yep.
if I was on the raw side, same thing. I would know exactly what I need to do. So establish which one you want to do, which route you want to take, and fully commit to it. That's the absolute most important thing. You have to be fully committed. And like if I wanted to ever go raw,
Mm-hmm.
I would have to completely abandon everything I'm doing now, which I'm not willing to do,
Mm-hmm.
to then train that way. So I've chosen my path. A lot of people don't like it. That's okay. So that's the first thing. Second thing, if you personally like, if you think you're eating enough, you're probably not. I, I
Mm-hmm.
I don't eat enough, and I eat like a fucking hog. So I guarantee you're not eating enough. You got to think like you need to take in enough nutrients to just be a living, breathing organism. If you work a job, if it's whatever you're doing to support yourself through that, and you gotta get enough sleep, and then you're trying to lift this weight and you're breaking down your body, on a microscopic level, you have to rebuild that. I mean, you have to eat so much food, calories, 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 carbs, carbs, carbs. So make sure you're eating enough. If you think you are, you're not. Um, you know, uh, Train in a variety of ways. Don't always just go super heavy. Train the other aspects of your body as well. Train high reps. Train for endurance. Do
Mm-hmm.
body. I love bodybuilding. I don't look it, but I do like training body. I think they go conducively together. Bodybuilding and powerlifting. Everything I
Mm-hmm.
do except for bench is bodybuilding oriented. My back training, my lower body training, shoulders, forearms, everything is like bodybuilding with me because I want more mass. I want more muscle.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a lot of these younger athletes today are so afraid or against putting any kind of mass on. They want to stay the same size for years on end and lift the same weights for years on end, and that's what happens. So
Mm-hmm.
don't be afraid to put muscle on. Try to put muscle on. Obviously, the normal things: train the hell out of your triceps and your upper back. Big benching is all with upper back and triceps. Like, everything else has to be strong too, but your triceps and upper back have to be the biggest and the strongest.
Mm-hmm.
So real basic stuff. There's nothing too like secretive or anything that I would say like you need to change. It's all very, very, very basic. We're all doing the same thing. We're all lifting weights. We're all bench pressing. We're all doing squat, bench, deadlift. So it's
Mm-hmm.
very basic. It's a very basic sport. People, I think they overcomplicate things. I know everybody just oozes over the conjugate style, which I absolutely loathe. I'm not a conjugate guy at all, and people know
Yep.
it. But
Yep.
I like you're going to a meet to lift straight weight
Mm-hmm.
on bench or squat, bench, deadlift, straight weight, straight barbell, and you've got chains and bands and boxes and things, and I just it's so and percentages and these RPE wuddy duddy fuddy things, and you're just overcomplicating a very very seemingly simple sport. So
Mm-hmm.
just calm down a little bit. Just take a step back and really think about what you're doing. That's all I have.
No, I completely agree, and that's actually a great segue because that's one of the things that I'm starting to see, even with everybody that I talk to on the podcast, and when I was at Elite, getting to interview some really, really strong humans. And your training has to match your goal, right? Like that, the baseline, your training has to match your goal. I like Conjugate for people that are in like a very general phase. Is like if you want to be okay or pretty good at things for an off season, give it a shot. What the fuck? Like it's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes time to peak or when it comes time to specify your training for a goal, you need to lock that shit in because you only get better at the things you practice. You only get better at the things that you do more and more and more. And
That's
I believe
that's that's one of our mottos: is train how you compete.
100%. And like in your case, the goal is to put as much fucking weight on that bar as you can and bench it. So
Yeah.
if there's no sense in you maxing out how many reps you can do at 400 pounds, that literally is the complete opposite of the goal that you're trying to put forth, right?
That's and there people are like, "Why don't you bench raw? Why don't you do raw?" It's like, well, for one, I don't do this sport for anybody else but myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to bench raw because you think I should.
Right.
I'm not going to spend my life pleasing others. I mean, I have friends, I have people I want, but I'm not gonna please the masses on the internet because
Oh, you never will. You never.
why would I? No, why would I do that? So anyway, but like I tell people, like, okay, why in the hell would I do close grip bench raw with 405 or 500
Mm-hmm.
or reverse grip 5 and 6 plates when I'm trying to bench 1400 equipped? The gap, it doesn't make any sense. Now, what is going to help me get to 1400? Putting a slinger on,
Mm-hmm.
Widowmaker, a ram, whatever, and doing said movements, reverse grip bench, close grip bench with 6, 7, 8, 900, and 1,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to build me to 1,400 pounds. That gap is smaller. That makes more sense because I have to
Mm-hmm.
specifically train to do that lift. Benching raw isn't going to do that. It's just not.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, it from the sounds of it, your training kind of breaks down into the equipped on a Saturday. Like you work up to the heaviest weight you can, and then you start to filter things down. Like you start to kind of strip gear off, do whatever, and you build up the foundation. It's like, okay, triceps, upper back, all this shit, right?
Yep.
But
Yep.
the meat and potatoes is what you use to carry over to being competitive in what you wanted to do, right?
That's right. That's exactly
And
it.
I and it's funny because you had mentioned that like, oh, but what can you do raw, blah 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 blah. It's like you asking a fucking driver in NASCAR what their NASCAR can tow. And it's like,
Yeah.
dude, it's the diff. It's like it's not even the same thing that we're talking. That's not what we're designed to do. That's not what you wanted to do or want to accomplish, right? Or it's like taking a beat up old truck and be like, all right, let's see how fast it goes around the track. I bet it's gonna fucking suck. I bet it's gonna suck real bad.
Mm-hmm. I made this choice years ago. I got into the equipment, and I was just so enthralled with what I was doing, and I've loved it every step of the way. My first shirt was like I mentioned at the beginning, a double denim Karen Klein.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Hicks took me under his wing. He brought me to Blackstone's gym up in West Lafayette, Ohio, and he said, "Hey, if you can bench in this thing, you can bench in anything." And it
Mm-hmm.
took me 6 months to get my first weight to touch at 550. And then after that, just boom, 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 boom. 14 years later, going up to 1320 and handling these loads. I'm trying to handle 1500 for the first time ever. I don't know if it'll happen this rotation. Might not be a good time, but I'm trying to do that soon.
Yep.
Um, there are certain things I have to do to train to do what I do, and man, I tell you what, I enjoy the living hell out of it. I really do.
Yeah, and I think that's a component of how to get better at something, enjoying the process, right? Because if you were like, hey, man, I want to bench 1,500 pounds, but man, do I fucking hate benching. It's like you're not going to fucking ever do it,
Sorry,
right?
that sucks.
And I think a lot of people fall into that trap is that, and I was talking, I mean, a few of my guests on here, and I'm noticing a lot of trends. A lot of the same people I talk to, you, Eddie Cohen, Josh Bryant, like all these fucking awesome humans, great coaches, great athletes. And it's like, if you don't enjoy the process, you're not going to want to do the work. right? Because when shit hits the fan and things start to get hard, right? And I think a lot of people that ask questions on the internet or just aren't high level competitors or just want to be fucking strong, they've never gotten to the point where they're training for 6, 10, 8, 12 weeks to get 52 weeks to get 10 pounds on the bar, to get 5 pounds on the bar, right? It's like they haven't even gotten to the point where it's hard yet.
Yep. No, I tell people like the moment that I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not going to waste my life doing things that I hate.
Mm-hmm.
It's just why would I do that? To what? To please others? Fuck that, dude. Like, no, it's for me. I
Mm-hmm.
want to get out of the sport. What I want to get out of it, the way I'm going to do it. So, one of the questions I had like 4 or 5 weeks ago was, I forget who I was talking to, but they said, "What would it take for you to ever say like go raw?" I was like, "Would it be money? Would it be this?" I was like, "No, it would take me deciding that's the best thing for me to do."
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. So it's funny
And
how that works.
yeah, isn't that weird? And one of the things that I think is really cool that you do is you have a Patreon and you build a community of people that want to get better, that want to get stronger. And I'm a huge fan of people building communities and providing support and just having really good information for people to use. Because in the world of strength, in the world of training and fitness and whatever the fuck you want to call it, it's like there is really good information and there's also really shitty information, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I always like to push people in the direction of people like yourself that are doing it right, that are providing really high quality, useful information that combines the world of numbers, science, blah, 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 but also the experience factor, right? And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I think anybody that's looking to get a bigger bench should sign up for you, should talk to you, should try to get into that world because it's not only you and your information, but the community around you that you've developed and built is going to be beneficial as well. Because I'm sure people in that community ask questions that you don't see that other people answer, and then it continues to kind of grow and develop, right?
Yeah, I've got a great group of people on there now. I just hit. I'd like to get one more, so I don't have to say my membership is at 69. I'd like
It's
it to be
on
at
purpose.
70 or 68, but come on, man.
Yeah,
So
right.
it fluctuates month to month as well. People come and go, and I'm like, hey,
Sure.
like if you don't see value in it anymore, leave. That's fine. If you
Mm-hmm.
do see value, I appreciate the support. It's $10 a month. That's all I charge. I don't believe in charging an arm and a nut for to watch me lift weights, but I use it as I kind of advertise it as it's all the behind the scenes stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You, Instagram sees the big benches, the competitive benches, but like all the behind the scenes stuff that I do, the 5 days a week, the lower body, the forearms, every rep of every set of every movement I do with commentary over top of it is
Mm-hmm.
on that Patreon. And
Yeah.
I've had people in there for 2 years. I've had people show up for one day and dip out the very same day. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's whatever. But yeah, people can ask questions. I can make custom videos. Like, hey, can you show us exactly how you do this? You got it. And I make a custom video and I do that. Those requests have really gone down. I
Mm-hmm.
don't do a lot of custom videos right now because it's not in high demand.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's great, and I just don't. I don't have a tolerance for the mentality of, I'm up here. I'm not going to talk to you down here because I don't have time for you because you're not up where I'm at.
Right. Right.
I'm always in my DMs. I'm always answering questions. I usually just send voice memos because I hate texting. I'm old spirited, I
I
guess. I
get.
like
I get
talking.
it. I get it.
So I send a lot of voice memos. I talk to people. I talk shirts. I'm like, hey, you know what? Fuck, just here's my number. Just call me. Let's just talk on the
Mm-hmm.
phone. So yeah, I really like to help people. If somebody can take what I have and grow from it and get better, like you can't. That's just so cool, you know.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah.
And,
It's been
and
a 2 years of building on that Patreon. So it's been a process.
Yeah, and again, that's the cool thing about the internet is that you can have access to someone like yourself or other athletes, other coaches, and you really get the firsthand account, right? You get the whys, right? And it's so funny because I've had a little bit of experience with this the last year with Elite, and just starting to get more people asking questions and wanting to know more information and just kind of following along like the path, the journey that you're on, that they start giving a shit about what you're doing. And it's like this weird situation. It's like, what? It's just weird that you have these people watching what you're doing and giving a shit about how you do it, why you're doing it. And it's like, ooh, shit, people are listening to what I say.
Mm.
People are watching what I do. And it's like, oh, fuck. Like, don't fuck this up.
Yeah.
Don't fuck this up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm a real person, man. I make mistakes.
Sure.
I say stupid shit. I do stupid shit. We're all still human, believe it or not. Because people are like, "Oh, there's no way you're human. You have adamantium for your bones," and I'm like, "No, no. I got a heart that beats and a brain that thinks. I'm still human. Like, trust me." It's
Mm.
just, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And like you had said, you've been doing this for a fucking long time. And just that slow exposure to heavier and heavier and heavier weights over the long period of time.
yeah, and specifically, I've done full power. And I absolutely fucking hated it. But I've specifically been interested in increasing equipped
Mm-hmm.
bench, for 14 years.
Yep.
Throughout all the different jobs I've worked through the military, it's always been bench.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if I had obsessed over squat or deadlift or full power, if that was my niche, then I'd probably be at the same level in one or two of those things, whatever. But I've always liked bench.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm built for it. I think I got good genetics for it. So I've specifically been training just bench for that long, and that's how I've gotten to
Mm-hmm.
where I'm at right now. I'm obsessively doing it for 14 years.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think people forget too is even if you start off doing something and you're bad at it, if you get committed 14 years to it and got no better, then you can be like, okay, well maybe I won't do that anymore.
That'd be a good choice. I think so.
But yeah, I really do. I appreciate just your ability to communicate these very seemingly basic principles in a way where people can really take that. And that's one of the biggest things that I wanted to do with this podcast is make it actionable, right? Is we want to be able to help people. We don't want to just talk about the thing for the fucking sake of talking about the thing. We want to help people grow, help people build, help people get stronger. And I think you having that community, you being willing to have those conversations with anybody about equipment, about just training, about, just developing a bigger bench. And
Hmm.
it's so important for the community of strength, right? To be able to bridge those gaps because you see it all the time is like just because someone's strong doesn't mean they're a good teacher, right? Just because someone has a following doesn't mean that to be honest, just because someone has a following doesn't mean they're fucking worth following. In fact, that's actually mostly the case is you see somebody with a big following and 9 times out of 10 is like, what fucking value are you providing? You know?
That's why half the reason why I just can't. My reality is I have to be on the internet. I have to, I've got sponsors, and it's just.
Absolutely.
But my perfect, my fanatical reality that I wish I could live would be to have absolutely zero online presence.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I would want. I wish I could just be the dark horse and just lift weights and enjoy life and just show up to meets and do what I do and then
Mm-hmm.
disappear and then come back and do another meet and disappear. It's not reality. It's okay. But yeah, the internet's just it's weird. I just it's so twisted and people's realities, their self realities that like the internet is real life and things like that. It's just so strange to me. It's like it's really not, dude. Shit's shit's bugging you. Guess what you do? You just
Turn that shit off. And,
you
and
know.
and it's funny because, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, is like people get angry, just like say some
Oh
horrific shit. And it's like,
oh
how did
dude.
this personally attack you?
Oh, I've gotten death threats. I've had people that wish death upon me with some of these things that I post. I'm like, dude, I mean, I had a guy saying, "I hope the bar falls on you and crushes you and leaves your wife a widow." I'm like, good God, man! Like, what happened to your childhood to make you so like
Yeah, who hurt
aggressive?
you?
I just posted a video of a training bench, and you want me to die? It's fucking wild, dude.
Yeah, it's
Strange.
such a bizarre environment, and granted, this is obviously coming from a very biased sort of person, and like I've had such a tremendously positive experience in the equipped world. Holy shit,
Mhm.
it is. I've been in strongman for years. I mean, I played baseball my entire life, so I'm used to being in the athletic world and like talking with other athletes and coaches and shit. It's hard to compete against the equipped world when it comes to just people giving a shit. It's like people understand how hard it is to do the things that we do in this world. That like anytime you show up to a meet, I can't tell you how many times I've even just hung out with Rob and he's like, here's a pair of knee wraps, here's a this, here's a that. You need this? Cool, cool, cool. And it's like, holy fuck, I'm not even
Oh,
good at this shit.
oh, dude, the community on the equip side of the sport, because that's what we're talking about. You're absolutely hit it on the head there. It's so people respect each other for what we do because it is so damn hard, and you cannot do it alone.
Mm,
I cannot do this without my crew, my guys at Unleashed Strength. I can't do it, and all the people that have helped me in the past, previous gyms when I was still living in Ohio. Um, it's just it's so unique, and I'm not gonna receive all this help and be so successful in the sport for a sport that I genuinely love and care for, and not return that favor and help others. What
mhm.
people in this sport, especially this younger crowd that I see a lot, I'm not trying to pick on them, but like I see it mostly from the younger crowd. They just take and take and take and take. They give nothing back. Just take, get whatever they want out of the sport and give nothing back. So I always advocate when you go to a meet, run the model lift for a little bit,
Mm,
load some plates. I always try to find the guy. There's always one equipped guy who's there by himself,
mhm.
putting his shirt on by himself, trying to do self handoffs. I'm like, hey man, you need help? I'll hand off to you. How about that? Just do something. Give back to the sport because that's what the sport needs. You need to give back to it. Don't just take from it. Give back.
Mm. And I agree, right? Because even I've been fortunate enough to be thrown into like the elite FTS multiply world, like, and it literally was built on the efforts and experiences of the past of Dave and Louie and everybody over there. Like it's that they would not be there without the people that came before. And likewise, the people in the future wouldn't be there without the people that are helping nowadays, right? So
Mm-hmm.
even to go to an equipped meet or anything, like I agree with you. I am, I pride myself on being the easiest guy to handle at an
Oh,
equipped meet because I'm like, dude, I'm good. I'm fucking Gucci here, right? Like they're like, oh, what about this? And I go, I'm a little thirsty. I'll take a swig of Gatorade. We're cool. Like I'm just like don't like you pick my numbers. It's fine, man. Like I'm just having fun, right? Because I think at the end of the day, it's such it really is. It's a small community of people, and you start seeing the same people over and over and over and
mm-hmm.
over, and it's like the good ones. You know who the good ones are, right? And the shitty ones, they don't stick around for very long.
No, I found that to be very odd that I'm talking on the equipped side.
Yeah.
Still, the oftentimes the I can say it either way. I can say vice versa. The nicest guys were always the strongest ones, or
Hmm.
like I said, vice versa. The strongest guys were always the nicest. And I go to some of these meets, and a couple of feds. I won't name any feds. Fuck, whatever. But
Yeah. Right.
sometimes this prick of a person was just this cocky attitude and this all this shit throwing, and I'm like, guy's a dick. Not strong at all. Just a
Right.
mean prick, just not strong. I'm like, where did that attitude come from, dude? Like you're whatever. But yeah, it's weird how that works. The nicest guys I've ever met at all these meets, all the 14 years I've been doing it, have always just been the strongest. It's really cool to see how that works.
Mm. Like, I mean, I was lucky enough to be able to train with Amber at Elite for half of my time down there. And like, she walks in, I have no experience with her. And I'm like watching the shit she's doing. I'm like, what the fuck? And then she's around just making fart jokes and shit. You know what
Oh,
I mean? And
dude.
I'm like, this
Oh,
is the best.
when
This
she
is so
was when
awesome.
she was down with us in Virginia because she was stationed uh, at the Air Force Base down here at Bowling, and
Hmm.
she was down here for about a year. She was with us at Unleashed. Yeah, she she fit in like a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
She's so fucking funny. She's really
It's
cool.
unbelievable.
Oh,
And
dude, we used to all go to her house and hang out and stay there till 2 in the morning and go home and bench the next morning and see each other and
yeah,
go out to eat the next day.
yeah. And that's funny because we had mentioned that too. Is once you're in that environment, you understand how like an equipped training crew kind of works. You can kind of fit yourself into most equipped training groups because it's like we all have a kind of a fucked up sense of humor. We all have like self-deprecating tendencies because like we
Sure.
wouldn't throw ourselves in these situations if we couldn't find the enjoyment or at least find the humor in these situations, right? Like,
Yes.
and it's always these on and off switches. It's like when it's time to work, it's time to work. But like as soon as your set's done, it's like how can I help you? What do you need me to do?
Yep.
Do you want to know a really fucking inappropriate fart joke? Like
Sure.
it's just all this, it's just all
Oh
this
yeah.
stuff, and it's been a tremendous opportunity to see that and to experience that, and it's very cool to see that with you and your training crew, it's the same shit, and I'm pumped. It's like if I ever got the chance to train with you guys, it's like I would know how it works. I would know where to go, know what to do, where to be, and I
Exactly.
think that's important because nowadays I think a lot of people train alone. They train by themselves, right?
Mm-hmm. It's I tell people left and right, anybody again, travel permitted. If you're on the other side of the country, I get it, but like
Right.
I try to get people to come to the gym. Like, hey man, I can talk to you all I want. We can discuss yada yada back and forth, but like, come get a bench in. Come lift with us on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock.
Mm.
Here's the address. Here's the gym. It's in Manassas Park, Virginia, Northern
Hmm.
Virginia. Yeah, I try. I just open invitation.
Yeah.
Um, it's really something special, and I'm really fortunate to be where I'm at with the people that I am with. Some have come and go, like Amber's one of them that's come and gone. Sadly,
Hmm.
she's still at the mercy of the military right now. But um, yeah, it's just it's been so good to me. I can't help but just pass on the guidance and the knowledge and the kindness and helping out. It just goes hand in hand. You have to give back to it.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I like to kind of do on here is to provide the people that I talk to, the guests that I have, with an outlet to kind of pimp out their shit. Whatever you got working on, whatever you got in the shoot, I, the floor is yours.
Cool. Yeah. Well, one of the biggest ways to support us and what we do, or myself, is again, like we talked about before, just the Patreon.
Hmm.
It's called KolbStrong. Is anything I do is pretty much KolbStrong. That's my IG handle. That's our business, one of our business names. So, KolbStrong on Patreon, $10 a month. Come watch what I do, learn what I do, ask questions. I can make custom videos. Support is greatly appreciated. Get me off that number 69. Get me to like
Yeah.
70 or something. So that's my Patreon. I love that. We also have a website, KolbStrong.com. That's where we sell we screen print. That's one of our businesses. That's some of our shirts
Mhm.
right there. You can buy different KolbStrong T-shirts. I have like 7 or 8 different designs. I'm not really sure. There's custom programs on there. I also have spots for coaching, online coaching, week-to-week coaching, things like that. The
Mhm.
KolbStrong Scholarship is a big one that I want to mention really quick. That's a very, very special thing. It's actually the brainchild of my wife. I'm kind of the co-founder of that. Those are shirt designs for the KolbStrong Scholarship behind me there,
Awesome.
new design. So that's a fund. We just got our paperwork. I don't have it near me, but we just became an official nonprofit organization.
Hell
Uh,
yeah.
so that's awesome. We raise money through hosting events, through donations, through selling merch. We raise for every $1,000 we raise, we sponsor a young athlete. We're talking teenage to junior years.
Hmm.
Right now, we're sitting at six athletes. So we raise money for the entire year. Come January 1st, we accept applications. People write into us, tell us their story, how they could benefit from this. We sift through. We have a panel of people, myself, my wife, some people from the gym, our gym owner. Amber was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we find the ones that need it the most. We reach out to them. We cut them a check, send them $1,000. There you go. You can
Wow.
pay for your gym memberships. You can pay for new equipment, gas to get back and forth to meets, to pay for meets, hotel rooms. You could blow it on a PS5 with games. I don't care what you do with it, but it's for them, up to their discretion what they want to do with that. That's what the KolbStrong Scholarship is for, because when we were that age, teens and early 20s, for a sport that I love so much, it sure doesn't pay very much.
Right.
I've done
Right.
it for so long, not for the money, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
This year has been pretty good to me. There's been a lot of money opportunities for competitions, but just 1 year out of 18 is not great. But
Yeah, you're still not breaking even.
not really. Still fun, but I don't do it for the money. But
Right.
that's what it's for. It's for the young athletes. So again, come January 1st, if you're interested, you can visit the KolbStrongScholarship.com, which is another website that we run, or you can
Mm-hmm.
message us on Instagram, KolbStrong, or the KolbStrong Scholarship on Instagram for details on information on how to apply
Mm-hmm.
and what we're looking for. And this, again, we're up to 6 athletes right now, and we still have 4 or 5 months left in the year to raise more money.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, and again, I like I tell all my guests on here, and because this is my show, I can do whatever the fuck I want. I really like bringing in people like you who are giving back, who are doing it right. Who there's a fucking lawnmower going on right now. This guy is driving me insane. Of course,
Fuck 'em.
fuck him is right. Let me just fucking close that door. Stand by.
You got it.
Oh my god! Look at that. We were on a goddamn roll, and all of a sudden, the freaking lawnmower comes out. No, like I said, the reason I invite the people on that I invite, that I get to talk to you, is because I truly believe you're doing it right. You're strong in what you do. You give a shit. You help people. You give back. You raise money. You like this is what I want to instill in the sport. This is what I want to instill in the community. Is it's not about just what we can take. You had mentioned it earlier. The concept of just taking and taking and taking and taking, that means you leave nothing on the bone for anybody else. You are not planting the seeds that other people can kind of benefit from in the future. And it's a short-sighted game. So I just want, again, to thank you for what you do. Thank you for how you do it. It really means the world to myself and other athletes that people like you, athletes like you, can help facilitate growth for everybody around you. Because powerlifting is small in and of itself. Equipped lifting is small in and of itself. And it's like, why are we fucking pissing off other people think this thing that we do is super cool, instead of trying to bring more people in, instead of trying to grow the sport, instead of trying to grow just the competitive nature of it. And just, I love the educational sort of focus that you have on what you do, because it means the world to like myself as a kid, right? Like if I didn't get into training, if I didn't get into what I got into, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And I was lucky enough to be able to be the director of performance at Elite FTS and talk to amazing people and learn about this shit. So I know the importance of sharing. I know the importance of giving back. And again, I appreciate the shit out of you. And I love what you do. And I hope nothing but success for you in your future.
No, I appreciate that. I really do. And quick shout out, really quick. Just want to mention the sponsors that I have. Obviously, the big one,
Absolutely.
Team Anderson Powerlifting, your powerlifting superstore. Anything from wraps to chalk to bench shirts. The sole distributor for the Pharrell products now.
Yep,
They
that's
picked
awesome.
me, they picked me up when I was 19 years old, so I've been with them for like 13 years. So, Team Anderson Powerlifting. We also got uh, Alive by Design Chiropractic Care down in Fredericksburg, Virginia, who takes care of me and does all my work and x-rays and stuff. So I appreciate that as well. Mr. Jericho. And then obviously the gym I lift at is Unleashed Strength Gym in Manassas. And then Joe and Margot Strada own and run it and operate it. And they've been helping me out for the last 3 years. I've been there since day one. Opening day with fresh paint, and it was just everything was brand new and no chalk anywhere. Very strange environment for me, but I've been there since day one. I love them both. So and what they do for us. But yeah, and I want to thank you as well again. This has been a really, really cool interview, and thank you for having me on here.
Oh, of course. And like I said, you're going to be back on again. We're going to need more updates. We're going to need just more insight into how we can get all fucking jacked and super strong in the bench.
You got anytime, man. You got my information, so
Awesome.
ready and willing anytime.
Fantastic. So, guys, thank you very much for listening to this episode. We're going to cut the recording here. And if you enjoyed this, make sure to share, like, do all the things. And on behalf of myself and Jimmy Kolb here, thank you for listening, and we will see you in the next one.